So, welcome to this interview with Biomechanics coach Mark Nesbitt.
Hello, yes, it is indeed.
But business name Frankham still, or how do you?
Yeah, technically I've not got around to changing that yet. So yeah, it's only like a recent change of the past, oh God, a couple of months now.
Yeah, because I'm getting married. Well, I'm supposed to be getting married in June, and you think like everybody knows you as France or Frankham in business. You think, is it going to be detrimental to the business to then suddenly change my name, the sort of searches and things? So, so yeah, I'm kind of in the same place, which is why I was quite interested. But like you, I'm thinking France kind of people know that, so I might stick.
I was going to say, yeah, whenever I talk about you, it's always Rachel France. It's never just Rachel.
French people who don't know me. I'm definitely not French. So thanks for giving us a little bit of time. And the idea of chats is I'm a nerd. I know you are. When it comes to what we do as human movement practitioners, in particular as biomechanics coaches, and I know there's a lot of people who they always wonder, well, what is biomechanics coaching? What do we do? So I'm just going to ask you questions. We'll just have a chat. We might kind of get a bit geeky and veer off, which is great. So if we start, if you introduce yourself, and what do you class yourself on? How professionally, how do you describe yourself?
Yeah, kind of like a bit of a nerd. No. Effectively, my name is Mark. I run a business called the Mark Method, and that is encompassing personal training. I'm also a British powerlifting coach and also an intrinsic biomechanics coach. And effectively, how I deal with clients is make them fitter, healthier, stronger, more conditioned, improve their movement. And no matter what their goal being, fat loss, muscle gain, sports performance, it all kind of comes under that umbrella of what I do.
Brilliant. And so have you been able to transition on it during lockdown into an online service? How are you coping? What are you doing to sort of manage the time right now?
So the personal training side of things, not a problem. That's just been kind of like switching a load of my clients from face-to-face over to kind of like video call style. So that's been via Zoom, team meetings, WhatsApp calls, Facebook Messenger calls, like that kind of thing. The biomechanics side of thing has been more of a checking in with clients, seeing how the movement's getting on and stuff like that. And effectively, if like myself, I've not felt too comfortable running people through screens because I'm still trying to get the hang of it, like not being able to sort of coach the movement and move them around and stuff. So what I've been doing is kind of like the I move freely kind of stuff. So be like, okay, how you been getting on? Still noticing this. Okay, here's some homework and we're going to take you through some like stuff now, that kind of thing. And the powerlifting side of things, that's just had to stop. There's not many people with a squat rack and a barbell in their garage or home at the moment. So it's unfortunate, but at the same time, I'm still trying to keep them strong by doing like bodyweight movements and stuff.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
No.
I think we've all been through the Kubler-Ross curve, haven't we? So we'll all recognise that, 6 weeks ago, we were in stage 1, the shock, numbness, denial. Then we transitioned to stage 2, fear and depression. Oh my God, my business is over. I'm ruined. I'm going to have to stock shelves in Tesco, which there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I think we're all prepared for things like that. But I think as humans, I personally, anyway, I'm always kind of like flipping it and going, right, what lesson could we learn here? And even as a power lifter, I think there's got to be some good to come from allowing your joints to take a break. It's like the kind of phases, off season, on season, trimestering, sort of lightweights, midweights, heavyweights. Does that not work? Is that how it works in powerlifting? You do that?
Yeah, so it depends on what kind of style you do, because with periodization, typically, you'd work up to like maximal load, and then eventually you'd then have to do some sort of deload or taper or something like that. Whereas something that I do is conjugate, so it's kind of like a mixture of max effort as well as like sort of dynamic effort, which is kind of like speed and stuff like that, but a lot lighter weight. But one thing that I've found, especially with my clients, is kind of like this is a great opportunity for conditioning. So high rep work, fitness, plyometrics, and mobility, biomechanics, that kind of stuff. So I'm definitely emphasizing clients as well as myself. I was actually going to go for a run this morning, which I've not ran in like a decade, but it's because I had this kind of like, I'm going to try like different things. Do you know what I mean? But it's only because it's been raining this morning where I've kind of gone, it's not raining tomorrow morning. I'll do it then. Because like a first run after a decade, it's going to be horrible, and I don't want it to be like raining as well.
If you think it's going to be horrible, of course it's going to be horrible. You got to go with the right.
Yeah, I know. I just couldn't do it.
But I mean, it's interesting because particularly with strength sports, which I'm fascinated by, like you, not so much powerlifting, but bodybuilding, that kind of world more so maybe. And the concept of high rep, lightweight conditioning work, whether people understand that ligaments, tendons take longer to thicken and develop than muscle. And there's always this kind of idea of everyone thinks in muscles, and
the narrow, it's only muscles.
And yet the tendons and the ligaments are a different structure altogether, and they directly impact on what your muscles are capable of. So trying to help clients who maybe don't have so much of the technical background, which I think in those kind of sports they do a little bit because they read around it, they want every advantage when they're competitive. But is that something you've always done, is try and condition the sort of connective tissue first in terms of what you're talking about, the sort of preparation, periodization? Is that something you explain to them? Do you read around that, or? So
it's a bit weird, a bit of a weird one. I'd only say like the past year, I've kind of like experimented with high rep work myself, and it's always been because heavier weight means you'll get stronger, right? Nothing else will make you stronger, so I'm not interested in anything else. But then, it was about a year ago. I was speaking to a sports performance coach in America. His name's Jacob Ross, amazing guy, and he was saying about doing high rep work, just giving it a go. Obviously because of the connective tissue, and I was kind of like, do you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense. I'll give it a go, and within like, I don't want to put like a time frame on it because I don't want to give it like, this is definitely when it'll happen. But it was in like a few weeks. I started noticing a difference just in how I felt, my recovery time and stuff like that. And I was kind of like, okay, clients have to start doing this as well now. I want to see if it like obviously affects them in the same way. And yeah, it was the same with clients as well. And since then, it's been with everyone. It's not just been my strong clients. It's been with Joe blogs trying to lose a couple of pounds. It's been people that are like endurance runners, like, because I've got a very wide kind of like variety client base. Like my youngest client's like 16, my oldest is like in their 80s, and obviously it's from powerlifter to post injury rehab, coming back into the gym. It's kind of like I've got to be quite broad with what I give people. But yeah.
And I think that's it. It's like, it doesn't matter what age, what demographic. Everybody wants connective tissue that provides the strength through to the muscle, and then muscles that are strong, whether that's for aesthetics, whether it's to power lift, or whether it's walking to Tesco and back. Everybody technically wants the same kind of thing. In terms of how we build up their body, in whatever reason they come to us as movement practitioners, I guess. So it's the same across the board. It's interesting because I had, there's a powerlifter down at our gym, and similarly for him, I gave him, I think it was a muscle energy technique. And his lifts went up by 10 kilos. 2 of his lifts went up by 10 kilos within, I want to say, a week. I think it was slightly less than that.
Nice.
And again, it's only anecdotal, but where you and I kind of experience it over and over again personally, and then me not powerlifting, obviously, but in terms of then transferring that information to a client, it's quite difficult, isn't it, to a layperson when they just want to lift heavy stuff off the floor, or bigger bicep peaks. How do you get around that?
Effectively, I kind of like manipulate them in a sense where I kind of go, like, if they say, oh, my goal is to lift heavier, I'm kind of like, if you do this, you'll be able to lift heavier. It's kind of like using it in that kind of sense. But then I think it's also quite important to stress, like, recovery is obviously just as important, if not, I would say more important than obviously doing the overload and stuff like that, because nobody wants an injury. Obviously everyone has like different goals, but nobody wants an injury. And I'm always like, if there's anything we can do to keep you guys coming in to the gym or working out from at home, it's kind of like, it's worth doing. There should be no question, unless obviously you kind of like, I don't feel like it's benefiting me, and in that case, we'll try something else that keeps you sort of more entertained.
Yeah, which is where I think I Move Freely fits in perfectly. I feel so strongly, I mean, always felt strongly about I Move Freely, but even more so now in terms of getting it into homes all over the UK. How do you think this whole lockdown is going to affect the health and fitness industry? I mean, I'm trying to encourage people, you've got to think like long term, right? So have you thought about that? What are your thoughts on that, Mark?
So I like to read and research different things and stuff. And one of my favorite things that I've read in this lockdown period about coming out of things stronger is from the Great Depression. Fender, the guitar manufacturer, created amplifiers, they created guitars and stuff like that, and it's changed the entire world. Now, not to sound cliche, but I feel the same is going to happen with the fitness industry. We're going to have massive spike, and I feel like everyone at the moment that wants to put the time in to improve, as coaches, as clients, just anyone within their industry, is going to be putting in all that extra time that they've now got into stuff that they wanted to do but didn't have time for and stuff like that. And even myself, I've noticed there's a couple of things that I've not been doing from sales, marketing, from even as a personal trainer perspective, that now I'm kind of like, all right, I'm changing that now, so that especially when we come back out, I'm going to be a better sort of coach. So I definitely think we'll be in a better place after it. It's just probably going to take time to get there and implement it. And even once we're allowed out, it's not going to be gates open, everyone's free. I think it's going to be gradual, but once we do eventually come off the back end of it, I do think we'll be in a better place for it.
I completely agree. I think it's been a huge shake-up because I think the industry is heavily kind of a big demographic are the sole traders.
Yes.
Like you, the guys out there that are kind of split shifts, ridiculous hours, never had time for anything, just trying to make a crumb, and loving what they do, because nobody does this job for the money. If anybody said that, they'd be lying, I'm sure. I can't imagine anyone going into this industry for the money. And so I do think, I agree with you, I think it's tightening us up on the weak areas. It has for me, technology and online resources. I mean, huge for me. I've transitioned into being so excited. I've got an I Move Freely workshop today, and I can't wait. And it's bizarre but I still can't wait to get back to the face-to-face. I think, I don't know if you saw those polls I did on my Facebook page about what do you miss. Everyone was like human contact, which is personal training. And so I don't see it long-term as detrimental at all. So kind of coming back then to people learning about things right now, what do you think are common misconceptions around biomechanics for personal trainers from your training to now? Because I know you read a lot. I know you're a smart cookie. You do a lot of self kind of, research kind of thing and read around a lot of things. But what do you think are the biggest misconceptions about biomechanics as a science, and then kind of the study that we do in intrinsic biomechanics?
I think the main misconception is effectively, from what I've noticed, is more of a people just think it's okay, so you're just gonna teach me how to squat, or like it's more of an extrinsic sort of coaching style. And obviously, when you explain the difference between intrinsic, sometimes there's still that I still don't understand what you mean kind of thing. So it's having that extra explanation. Like one thing that I've found since lockdown is when I'm in face to face, people can feel that passion. They can see my body language quite well. But now I've got like a little square screen where a lot of my body language is cut off. And I'm kind of like, I could step back, but then, but yeah, like it's kind of like getting that point across and kind of like capturing people with it, if that makes sense. So once I've got people's attention and they can see my passion behind it, it kind of like becomes more of an infectious thing. So effectively, it's just people's misconception of effectively what we do. Is that kind of like answering your question, or do you mean something else?
Yeah, but also sort of generally in the industry. So even to other professionals, like, postural assessment had a sort of phase, and functional movement screening has had phases. The industry it has this trend of phases. And I think I personally think everything has relevance. But in terms of misconceptions by other personal trainers about what you and I do as an intrinsic biomechanics coach, what do you think are those? Do you come across other professionals who ask you, and what do they believe we do, and what do you think the difference is?
I mean, I do have a lot of professionals ask me what I do, but like I don't really.
What do you say?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say because like most of the time when you just have this conversation, you don't really think misconception. Not really too sure how to answer that one, if I'm honest.
Well, in terms of, I think we're often perceived as injury specialists.
Oh, right. Yeah, in that kind of sense, yeah.
Towards kind of the physiotherapy end. And you'll know from our training that we actually steer you way away from that, because if you want to be a physio, you have to do a physio degree.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Only clinicians should be dealing with injuries. But I do think, I believe there's a misconception around injury and issues.
Yeah.
Which is how we maybe define what we do. So we deal with issues, like they're not injuries. So an injury in my world is like trauma. You fall off your bike, you break a bone, you've got to go to see, clinicians and get scans and see a physio or a therapist. Whereas what we do, I believe, is the bigger demographic of people, like right now, particularly on lockdown, or people stuck at home, working from home, where we deal with issues that are biomechanical loading, which is easily rectified more often than not with simply exercise. Is that how you see it more in terms of, I guess my question was wrong. I was talking about the biomechanics and the assessment side, but I think it's actually what we classify as our specialism in terms of what
yeah. So I would say the biggest misconception then would be kind of like the Mark will fix you. It's, oh, you've got this problem. Mark over there is a biomechanics coach, he'll fix you. And it's kind of like, not quite. So yeah, effectively what I try to explain to people is it's normally the low grade injuries. If not, you've not got a problem at the moment, you just want to have optimal performance, or optimal movement, better movement, kind of say. And then yeah, obviously from that it's then use their goal to kind of like give that example of you'll run faster, you'll lift more, your movement will just be better. The likelihood of injury decreases, although there's always going to be some risk in anything ever. So yeah, that's normally how I kind of like get the point across.
Yeah, I totally agree. So how do you think it's helped you then as a coach, specifically to do the training that we gave you in terms of that kind of understanding?
Oh, what, the biomechanics coach course? Oh, it was weird. It was kind of like just I went there thinking in a good way, in a good way. So like I went to the course and I was kind of thinking, I know what I'm talking about. I'm just gonna answer a few questions, easy. And then I think it was like the first couple of sentences you said quadratus lumborum, and I was like, what the hell's that? And then it just blew my mind, and I was kind of like, all right, I really don't know anything. And then the more we got into the course, it was more of you really don't know anything, kind of like the Kubler-Ross curve of just everything I know isn't what I know and all that kind of thing. So it's kind of like a bit of a light switch of like a humbling light switch of you don't know everything, but you can know more about what you thought you already knew, if that makes sense. And it's definitely a course that's made me better as a personal trainer, as a powerlifting coach, obviously as a biomechanics enthusiast, we'll say. And yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's definitely worth doing, just because like you just don't realize what you don't know, if that makes sense.
And I find it interesting because I knew you switched on when you came along as well, to hear that. But I mean, when you look back at it, we only reteach you the level 3 anatomy. And that's all it is, but it's giving you like that reason to remember it, isn't it? And then when you're a bit nerdy like we are, you kind of then go, right, okay. And this is, I think, where the Kubler-Ross curve concept is so important, that you go on this journey of right, and you kind of relearn, and then it's enhancing the vocabulary. But I think there's you're finally switching, aren't you, between the classroom and your nerdy reading, and then you've got to speak to Barry down the gym or online about things that you're like, okay, how do I explain subclinical muscle spasm? You know, do you have a script, or do you just shoot from the hip with that stuff, depending on who you speak to?
Yeah, I suppose it depends on the kind of client that I'm kind of like talking to, or even professional, to be fair. I find professional, I actually sort of dumb it down a lot more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
In fact, back to what you said about misconceptions earlier, one thing that I kind of like describe myself is I'm not just a PT, but I'm not quite an injury professional such as physio, chiro, osteo, like that kind of thing. I'm kind of like the middleman between, where I'm kind of like, I am a personal trainer as well. So after you've worked with that kind of person, I take you into that next step kind of thing. And I understand injuries, I understand the medical speak. And that's been another thing since having to do, I can't remember in what workshop it was, but when we had to kind of like translate medical speak, I became obsessed with it. I was kind of like, whenever I'd hear someone's like physio notes and stuff, I was kind of like, ooh, it's a different language. So I've got to translate that.
Yeah, it's weird, you know, because I know you and I have that synergy about like getting kind of geeky about stuff we don't know, and then like, you know, going just all out to just absorb it like a sponge. So
Yeah.
okay, then what would be give me your, let's go with top 3 book recommendations, like right now. Are you reading books right now? I know you read quite a bit, but
Yeah. Well, at the moment, I'm more sales and marketing sort of focused. So
anything. What's your top 3
but
books right now?
at the moment, I'm reading .com Secrets by Russell Brunson.
Oh yeah.
Brunson? Yeah. The other one is Grey's Anatomy. Like not the soap, the the medical Grey's Anatomy, yeah. And that one's just really interesting for just like the graphic illustrations and stuff like that, just breaking things down and really giving you a good visual. I can't remember what edition I've got, but I've got the colored edition.
Right.
So when it's talking about certain like muscle groups, nerves, and stuff like that, it highlights it and it really like pinpoints of like what you're looking at. And another one, ooh, it's hard to pick a top 3.
No. So are you okay? So okay on your third one? What about do you have like a favorite um, place to go for research, or like, you know, is there a hub or a Facebook page or a website or somewhere where you go for like research? Because I know you like looking at some of that stuff as well.
Um, I'm trying to think. I look at PubMed quite a fair bit, but that I wouldn't say that I take that as gospel. It's more of just I want to see what is being said kind of thing. Because I know certain research, like studies and things, can sometimes be manipulated. Because obviously they're doing certain studies for a certain outcome, and it's kind of like I know it can't always be taken as what's the word? Gospel kind of thing. So PubMed I sometimes go on, and effectively I would say there's no specific source that I tend to go to. It's more of just who I look up to as kind of like mentors within this industry kind of thing. I see what they're saying, and I see how many people at a high level are saying the same thing kind of thing.
So who are those guys then? Maybe reel up a few names.
Oh, okay. Yourself. So yeah, biomechanics education, definitely check that out. I've already mentioned Jacob Ross. Like a lot of what I sort of look into as well is kind of like obviously powerlifting style. So people like Dave Tate as well. Love what he puts out. And then I suppose pretty much it's just like the biomechanics guys. So Chris Kitson, Tom Waldron, is it? Yeah. And like all those guys, it's just really fascinating just seeing everyone's different take on it. And obviously everyone's got different lines of work or lines of therapy alongside that. So obviously myself, I say I'm just a PT as well, but obviously other people are massage therapists or was it sports therapists and things like that. So it's just interesting seeing people's different take on things.
Different interpretation. What about the American guys? Like, is it Greg Knuckles? Is another one that.
Oh yeah, Greg Knuckles. Yeah, look into his kind of
like,
stuff.
You know, 300 pages on the deadlift or whatever it is. It's squat, deadlift, bench. I think he did, didn't he? He did PDFs that he shares really generously. where he looks at the anatomy, the biomechanics, the forces, that kind of I mean, I could just like soak that stuff up. Cool. Okay, what else do I want to ask you? So do you have any kind of forward thinking about further education that you are looking to gain down the line, or is that not something you're thinking about right now? Or, you know, like, do you have dreams of being an osteopath or something like that, or not? What's the next course you would consider?
So I was on a podcast yesterday and they asked me the same thing, and I've got a list. I've got a list. I'm kind of like, there's so many different things that I want to be doing. But I know you've done the weightlifting, is it the British weightlifting?
Yeah.
Like coaching course? I'd love to do that, because snatch and clean and jerk, another thing that just baffles me in terms of the technicality with it all.
I've done 3, by the way. No, I've done 4 Olympic weightlifting courses.
Well, what would that be? Like S&C, British weightlifting 1 and 2?
I did the British weightlifting level 1. I did the Jordan one years ago with Samir Achille, and then through Mark Laws. Then I did the Elite Performance Institute phase 1, phase 2, so Carl Gilligan. And then I did Brendan Chaplin's level 4 strength and conditioning award. And kind of the technical application and teaching is pretty much the same, but you do, particularly when I think the periodization was what fascinated me, and yet I felt I still know squaddly dip, like you know. So I went through 2 of them, but I felt that I'm a classroom learner, and I want to sit in the classroom. Well, I want to be practical as well, but I want to be able to then sit in the classroom and challenge and ask and work it out and how it fits in. And I haven't yet found that, so I've been tapping up Cyril Martin. Don't know if you're an old guy, Olympic coach in Alfreton, Nottingham Way. And I went to see him years ago. He was one of my first Olympic weightlifting coaches. You know, and I mean, he charged me pennies, and I was like, you serious? Like, you're Cyril Martin. And I've been trying to. We were supposed to be doing the Kaizen project this year, and I had him booked, like provisionally booked, to do a periodization workshop, and I am like gagging, waiting for that. So that's kind of, for me, you know, I've done all these Olympic weightlifting courses. I think the lifts are the lifts. There are different slants on it, and I've watched a little bit of Michaela Breeze. So her stuff's quite good as well. But the periodization, I'm still like, I kind of want to go in that a little bit more. So sorry, I've just taken over from you.
No, you're okay. But that's the thing, I think, so the weightlifting I think would be pretty cool. There was even at one point where, like, this was before having my own business and having a mortgage and everything. But I don't know if you've ever heard of Mass Strength, as in MA Strength. No, they're basically
UK?
Sorry?
UK or American or
China.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, exactly. So effectively, it's kind of like a camp where you go there for, I think it's either like 1 month or 1 month or 3 months or something like that. And effectively, you live with the weightlifting coaches that coach Chinese weightlifters.
Wow.
And I thought that would just be mental, because obviously China tend to be more of like the top level when it comes to weightlifting. So there's that. I've thought about doing a BTN nutrition. That one's the more likely one that I'm looking at coming up. But
just about to start, by the way.
I know. I'm kind of like, oh, I might not. It's kind of like at the moment, because I'm in that uncertain.
Payment holiday for 3 months.
Oh, is it?
You sign up for 50 quid and you have a payment holiday for 3 months. So Ben Cooper's.
That's good to know.
BTN Practical Academy. So I'm literally, I've got a blog ready to come out just to shout about it for him on Thursday, but it kicks off kind of May 4th. Yep. And he sort of said, what do you think? How do you feel about it? So I've got no problem with it. I said, people are investing in education right now. And he said, you know, we are doing this payment holiday. So I would definitely check that one out. I did the foundation one. The book alone that I got with the Foundation Academy BTN course was, I mean, that alone was the value in investing in their stuff. But I think he's got integrity. So I'd stick that way if, but what else?
Well, I was looking at BTN nutrition or the Mac nutrition, if you've heard of that one. So like I just sorry,
I'm not as familiar with the Mac nutrition stuff.
Yeah, and then what is it? I've thought about doing some rock tape stuff, like in terms of like the actual tape itself, but they also do like they've got their own like cupping therapy kind of stuff. I can't remember the name of the tool that they use, but the scraping kind of thing. I
I am.
thought that'd be pretty cool to learn about and get into. Sports massage therapy. I want to basically just do it all, but I know it's not always possible because effectively, if you as an athlete are trying to do all the sports, you're never going to be great at those sports all at once. So it's one thing that I kind of need to hone in a little bit. And because I myself are very passionate about powerlifting, I know that's effectively where my strength is. So it's kind of like all my eggs at the moment are kind of like powerlifting, biomechanics, personal training, and I could kind of like merge them quite nicely together
Yeah.
to create the Mark method.
Yeah, I love it. And I think you're right. I think we can be a little bit hybrid. And I love going to courses. I'm like you. I like being multifaceted. I've done manual therapy. I've taught manual therapy, but I don't use manual therapy. It's not my bag. I like the movement stuff, and sort of the assessment and coaching side, even more so than personal training per se. But I think it's always helpful to know a little bit, and then you know when and where to refer someone for that skill set because you understand it.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, you've got to be a bit more, okay, what's right now, particularly in these current climate. But Mike Grice is a good one for dipping in and out of his diploma to understand a bit about the manual therapy side. And I think he also teaches a K-taping. He and Ali Cunningham in Liverpool does the cupping. Fire cupping was amazing. So they came down and did a CPD with us. And I think he and Mike are kind of writing that up at the minute. I think he was involved. I think he was a sports therapist for Liverpool. I want to say that. I don't offended anyone who said the wrong football team. I'm sure it was Liverpool. That's where he is. But yeah, that might be another one. But I think one of the things that always strikes me about you and your social media, because we'll come to how people can find you in a minute, is the kind of, well, your editing skills. I love your videos and I love the sense of humour. So in terms of when people are looking for a coach or a trainer, I think there's definitely dynamics that work. And so, you want to look for, because there's thousands, there's millions of personal trainers around. How do you pick them out? What do you think makes the Mark Method personal training service unique? You've obviously got the niche in powerlifting, but is there something that helps you stand out? Because not all of your clients are powerlifters, as you've said, so you've got a real wide base. So for anybody who's watching this back, what makes you different, do you think?
So with me, like what you see is what you get, because I know that with personal training as a whole, some people see that title as kind of like a superhero uniform, and once it goes on, they kind of like have to change who they are and become this crazy person that just shouts at everyone, tells people 5 more no matter what, and that kind of thing. Whereas I'm kind of like, I'm very realistic in my approach. I'm kind of like, I know where people's limits are. I know to push, when not to push. And as I say, like you as the client are always going to be my focus. It's never going to be kind of like we're going to do this because I want you to do this. It's always going to be, well, your goal is this, that's why we're doing this kind of thing. And I'm just, I don't know, it's very cliche to say I'm passionate about like the fitness industry and stuff, but I'm kind of like, I enjoy explaining it. And I think like me being passionate, I think I've already said in this like session, like it becomes kind of like infectious. You see my passion and I try and make it kind of like infectious so that you get that same passion. And then one last thing is I always train people as if tomorrow they're no longer going to have me, and I would want to feel comfortable that they know what they're doing and can kind of like handle themselves. Because I know obviously things come up financially and things like that, and I understand that people aren't going to be with me forever. So I'm kind of like, I want them to be in the best scenario, even if they do go to another PT and that kind of thing. So yeah.
And I think that's good practice. I think you're right. It's the empowerment to give them the skills. Long term, that's going to give you the success. They're going to recommend their friends and they're going to come back to you. So okay. Well, how do people find you? I know you're all over the place. So do you want to reel off your locations if people want to come and speak to you or use your services? How do they find you?
So the main thing would be the website. So www themarkmethod.co.uk, and with that comes basically all the services I kind of do, where I'm sort of at in terms of location wise, and then pretty much every social media platform is at the Mark Method, apart from Twitter. I don't really use that one. Don't know why. I just can't get on with it. So yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, that's awesome. So I appreciate your time. I'm going to let you off. I know that you're going to get your book. You're heading to a book or something now. So take care, mate.
Yeah. Good seeing you.